Good morning, everyone. It's really great to see you all here. First time for me in Malmö, and I have to say it feels really welcoming. So thanks everyone from being here. So this last talk will be, I think, very complementary to the two talks that we had. I will spend some time to show you some of the project that is developed in one of the laboratory I have been working the last years, which is called the MIT Media Lab. Some people from this lab will also make some talk about it this afternoon. There are different groups in this laboratory, and one of them is called City Science. So I'm still working with them on different methodology, and I will go a bit more in detail in a specific one. So City Science is directed by Kent Larson, which is the principal investigator, and we are mainly working on three main projects. I will focus more especially on this one called Cityscope, but we will see how it's also linked to mobility on demand. A part of the group is working on new modes of mobility, lightweight mobility, and also on smart furniture and how house and furniture can adapt themselves in your buildings. We will focus more on this one. So what is Cityscope? It's a tangible interface that we co-develop in order to understand and explore some specific dynamics of a city. So you can see it as a medium, a tool that gives the possibility to communicate, but also to collaborate and to do some public consultation on different aspects. So I will go through some of them to see how to use it as a tool for decision-making in urbanism. So let's start with a very classic, example, a project that we have been developing on the MIT campus. So this red line is a district that you want to redesign. The concept is to make a physical representation of it, in this case in Lego, and to project some data and also some data analysis, some simulation on top of it. So this is the main concept, and this is basically how it looks. We'll go more in detail on that, but you have a physical interface and you are able to change some parameter, can be land use, can be way of mobility, and see in real time what will be the impact. So in this project, the brick represent the land use, and you can see in real time how it will impact on the mobility of many different indicators. Again, this is a bit how the interface is working, where here you can easily increase the population. So what if those buildings are more or less populated, and how it will impact. As I already mentioned, in this case, a Lego brick represents roughly a floor of a building. And then we are able to extract, depending on the question, depending on the city, some indicator regarding diversity, the density, or proximity, or energy consumption, trying to link them with some of the famous indicators developed by, for example, the UN or this kind of organization. But as soon as you want to answer to some question, in, let's say, a computer science approach, you might want to build a model. So you want to make a simplified representation of a city. But we all know that city is one of the most complex systems we know, made of many different scales, many different actors. So one of the tools that I am co-developing for the computer scientist in the room, it's called agent-based modeling. So it's one way to represent those kind of systems using a program, using an algorithm. And this approach gives you the possibility to really embed a lot of contradictory or different behavior. Because in cities, lots of people have different input, different insights. So the agent-based modeling is one way to integrate in, let's say, a computer software or algorithm, all those parameters. So on a technical note, one of the software that is used in most of these examples is a software which is co-developed by different partners, mainly in France, and mainly with the Institut de Recherche pour le Développement. It's an open source software called Gamma Platform. You are all welcome to have a look at here. The goal is really to democratize the usage of computer model for many different applications. So the way it works, we start most of the time from a physical representation of a city. We use lots of open data, such as OpenStreetMap, for instance, geographical information system, that will give you more or less the static representation of the city. And then you start to put some behavior on it. And for example, one very specific behavior, you see here this red dot represents one person on a daily basis that is living here, working here, here grabbing some food, going back to work, so a daily pattern. And what we do with some data was pretty interesting to see also all the data that was gathered by the two previous speakers, is to try to analyze those data and to extract some specific profile, also to know the mode that they are using, in order basically to reproduce what you might have heard already. The buzzword is called maybe digital twin, or this kind of approach now that we know a lot. It's basically creating a synthetic representation of a real system and being able to reproduce what happened in order to explore some scenario. So then in this kind of project, we were interested to know where the interaction would happen in a city. So depending on the kind of land use, you would attract or not some interaction. We are also exploring some to explore the impact of commuting. So this was an experiment we did in Kendall Square to compare the current commuting versus the what if everyone or a proportion of the commuting is made by vehicle, and see how it could impact on the CO2. Other kind of experiments that can be done is to compare the usage of private car versus more lightweight vehicle, and what can be gained in terms, for example, here in terms of parking space, and see what if the transition in mobility can give you the possibility to replace parking by other type of usage. And I briefly mentioned it, so one of the team is also working on this vehicle, which is a kind of still a research project in between a bike and a car that would be autonomous and that you could be grabbed and call at different times. So we really think about different ways to use mobility in order to make cities more livable. So persuasive electric vehicle was actually developed a big part by the Taiwan Tech University, and we used to have some interaction with the Ministry of Digital Affairs that was speaking this morning. To keep on time, so this is, let's say, the prototype, the proof of concept. I will show you how it's applied in some cities of the City Science Network. I won't go to all of them, but trying to focus on different one, just very quickly. So most of the technology is developed here, but there are some partnership with some city science lab, and the goal, I will insist on that a bit later, is that most of the tools are open source and can be easily shareable between projects. So some partners are blue, like City Science Lab, and we are more and more doing academic collaboration. Hopefully, maybe Malmö will be a point here. Would be great to discuss about that. Really, the goal is to have academic collaboration and to share knowledge through open source tool. So one project, it's one of the oldest partner of the Media Lab in City Science. It's in Andorra, where here the question was to understand the behavior of the tourist through telecom data. So I won't go too much in detail here, but we have access to telecom data. Andorra is a small country between France and Spain. It was possible to have access to those data and possible to analyze it and to understand what was the behavior of the tourists according to their nationalities. So that was very helpful for this country, anonymized data, but we were able to know the nationalities. Here is a bit a backstage of how do we play with Lego to build this kind of tool. It's just to show a bit the process of how it's made and how it can be used. For instance, so I mentioned for communication, this is something that was exposed in Barcelona, the Smart City Expo. So it's one way for a city to discuss and show what is done. Another interesting project that was made in collaboration with Hamburg and Aachen City University was using this tool to try to assess the problem of the refugee and using it for public consultation in order to try to find the best way to welcome those refugees and to complement this kind of public decision where it's very hard to hear all the voice. So here the tool was basically representing a map of Hamburg. There was two tables, and the user were able to choose some specific place and propose potential design with different back and forth in order to help to know where to build the refugee, where to welcome them. Sometime would be in different areas. So it was a pretty successful project where then each roundtable was summarized, and I don't have exactly the number, but like something like 20 or 30% of the final decision was in link with those workshops. This is another project in China. Just this is more to show a bit how the tools can look. It was a bit a bigger project. I show a bit here the technology. It's pretty simple. It's based on QR code that you can easily tag. And take some time, so we play a lot. Actually, there are lots of Lego here. I never play with such an amount of Lego, but this is basically what you are able to do. And here you have an interactive area where in this specific project, we were focusing on the accessibility to park. So depending on the type of land use that you would put, it will update the walkability in this case. Also working with other tools like that. I will try to go fast to keep in time. Another one which is really dedicated to communication that was developed in an exhibition about mobility. So here it's an abstract city, and the tool is really meant to be used in a museum. So we worked a lot on the design and how to make the city really abstract and easy to use, because the installation was supposed to work for 3 months. And then you have here sliders that give you the possibility to navigate between two worlds, a dystopian world and a utopian world. Going back to France now, another project we did in Paris was in collaboration with PCA Architecture and with the city of Paris to understand, to propose a new vision for the Champs-Élysées. So here the goal was to build a representation of Champs-Élysées how it was in 2020, and compare it to a proposal coming from an architecture firm, and display it on a physical model in the exhibition. So having this kind of rendering where you recognize here the different radar plot that I showed at the beginning. So here really the goal was for communication, to communicate a project to a specific audience. And I will finish with something I have been working the last 2 years. So after being in US, I came back to Lyon, funded by the European Council for the Marie Curie Fellowship, where I have been working to apply those methodology in some specific area in Lyon. And we were conducting some workshop. So the goal here was to train the student. We have different students from different background, coming from urbanism, from computer science, also from geographical system. And we would identify some specific area in the city and build the tools together. One of them was this project. I do this, yeah, where we were also focusing, so also very complementary to what you showed, link to the air quality. So here we were just using computer simulation, but would be great to link it to real data. The goal here was to understand the impact of our commuting on the air quality. So we were using a model and train the student in order to project it and be able to identify the different activity. And yeah, that's another one just to show you how the goal, and that will be my last slide, is I already mentioned it, most of the tools are open source. So really the goal is to spread the knowledge so that people can use it as much as possible, but also to train some students. So in the case of master students, for instance. So this was a workshop we did recently, and I'm not sure you will be able to read all of that, but it's important to mention that those are based on 3 main open source projects, so mainly the Gamma platform, Cityscope, and also some projects developed in the Lyris. I am already done, so thank you very much, and happy to answer to some questions.